I'm Paul McKeever, the principal in charge of the Savannah Convention Center Expansion. Our firm designed the original convention center back 25 years ago. And we're actually lucky enough to have 3 architects that worked on that project to also be able to work and to advise on this project. But we did want to form a roster that really brought a diverse range of perspectives and experiences, so ranging from staff in their 20s all the way to seasoned veterans in their 70s even. And with staff that really had a tie back to the city, including myself. I went to the Savannah College of Art and Design. In 2017, we did a concept design study, and there was probably about a dozen options that we looked at, which were narrowed down to 6. We have an approach called optioneering, where we just say the best idea wins. So we get a diverse range of perspective, everybody puts things on the table, and ultimately it's a great learning experience for our younger staff, and we get the best ideas from it. By having architects on our team who had designed the original building, we were able to really be self-critical and to think back on what lessons we had learned 25 years ago that we can bring to this expansion project. We wanted to make sure the guest experience was that you knew you were in Savannah at every turn around the facility. For example, in the East Lobby, we have a 45-foot tall artistic mural wall covering on 4 different walls, and the theme is the city of Savannah, but in the live oaks. So when you're up on level 2 looking over the atrium, you really kind of feel like you're climbing in a live oak tree. And then moving from the East Lobby through the meeting room concourses, the meeting rooms are actually laid out like row houses in Savannah. So they're brought down to the scale of a row house, and they even have the canopies over the porches, which were called those historic homes in Savannah that we love so much. The most probably literal translation of this is in the north facade. We actually have a gigantic super graphic across the whole facade that says Savannah in huge letters, and it's really become an Instagrammable moment for guests when they arrive at a convention there. So the culmination of the Savannah experience is when you move up to the ballroom level, and there's a ceiling. It's the highest finish area, and the ballroom ceiling is actually made up of these individual leaves that are inspired by the oak leaves of the oak trees in Savannah. And then even the lighting, there's different layers of lighting, and you have light filters that make it look like the light's coming through the live oak trees when you're sitting down for a banquet. And then on the west wall of the ballroom, they're able to open up the shades during a sunset, and you get this dramatic view of the Savannah Bridge with the port in the background. So the guest experience starts with the arrival via the Savannah Bells Ferry, which the convention center actually helps to fund. One of the kind of events, like maritime events, that happens in Savannah is when these huge container ships roll by. They really actually shadow the city because they're just so big. You know, the convention center itself, it was interesting. We were comparing the size. The convention center is kind of up there in the size of a container ship. So that East Lobby that we talked about with the live oak murals, if you look back towards the river from there, the food outlet has a theme on the container ships, right? So the tile backdrop looks like the containers on a ship, and then you'll actually see that as you're looking out the window when the ships pass by. The culmination of the kind of the maritime influence that you see in the Savannah Convention Center is when you're entering into the north lobby, and you look up at the ceiling, and it's shaped like the hull of a ship. And then you see that the columns that line that whole facade and help to support the glass, they look like masts on a ship. And then as you look all the way out through the glass at the one end of the lobby, you see all of the cranes that are in the port that help to load the container ships as a backdrop. So for the convention business, a lot of people arrive via airport, right? And the airport is like the front door to the city. And so the convention centers, oftentimes that's the first place people go from the airport to their conventions. And we really think of it as the living room for the city. And it really has to then speak to the city and what that city is about, so that it can leave an impression on the guests, because ultimately these buildings have a job to do, and you want people to spend that 8 hours of time that they have going around the city and creating that economic activity that makes these projects work so well for cities. One of the reasons why we chose the scheme that we did back when we were narrowing down from 6 down to 1 scheme was that we knew with the scheme of expanding northward that they could keep their existing building open and operational for the duration while they were building on this new expanded convention center. Yeah, it was really great foresight by our predecessors back when they designed the original building to design it in such a way that it could expand. completely to the north. The biggest thing was with the north wall of the building and just being designed to be able to expand, that you could build it completely to the north, and then at the very end just take that wall down and you're open and operating. We really like to take an integrated design approach to our projects, so working closely with consultants to see what are the things that could make a big difference in terms of having an integrated design. And so for the wetlands, we knew there were wetlands there on site that we wanted to retain and to save. So between our landscape architect and our civil engineer, we were able to come up with a strategy that extended that wetlands into man-made wetlands across the whole North Plaza. And it allowed us to not have to have a huge stormwater retention vault, because we were able to use this man-made wetlands for stormwater retention. Ultimately, this saved the client a lot of money. We have a large terrace right off of the ballroom roof. There's actually a terrace on 3 sides of the ballroom, and they're able to host banquets out there, and they're covered terraces. And we also explored being able to put air movement out there with fans. So in pretty much any climate, you can extend the usability of the outdoor space with these strategic architectural interventions. The second thing that we did was, it was interesting that they wanted to have the ability to bring very large exhibits into the building. And so by configuring to expand northward, they lost that original door from the existing building. And so we actually replaced it with one of the key defining features of the project, which is a 30-foot tall by 60-foot wide glass hangar door that opens up, and you're able to bring airplanes into the exhibit hall. So they're also able to use this on days when it's nice out, and they can extend the events from inside out onto the plaza. Yeah, so this is really the most that we've ever expanded a building by in terms of percentage. We more than doubled the size of the building with the expansion. Flexibility was really key. So their first event, they hosted a sports tournament that filled all 4 exhibit halls and the ballroom. To be able to host sporting events in the ballroom, you need to have finishes that can withstand that, which we always design into our projects. We mentioned these convention centers really have a job to do, and it's to create this economic impact. So this $276 million convention center expansion project is estimated to generate over $500 million in economic impact for the city and over 3,200 jobs. And that's real impact.